Hi, welcome to the latest in the askalan series. Today we're going to talk about Ethernet fabrics enabling SDN and try and demystify some of the Ethernet fabric and SDN discussion in the industry. To really understand that, first of all, we need to go back to the beginning and really kind of understand that back in the early days, the network was to support users getting access to, applications that sat on a server, very much one-to-one ratios. And there was a network to support that was typically a core aggregation access type network. And that's really been the same for the last 20 years, back in the mid-90s to current day. And the network was fine. But what happened about a decade ago was we started to have multiple applications sitting on virtualized platforms on common server infrastructure. And the network was very much starting to come into question in terms of the performance, the efficiency of managing that network, and the robustness of it. But it really starts to come into the spotlight when these applications and virtual machines start to kind of move around. So whether within the same data center or across data centers, we've got virtualized platforms that sit on server architecture, multiple servers. And then a lot of our customers are talking about moving applications within virtual machines across subnets, across data centers, and across countries and the globe. And it's at that point that the network really starts to come into question, because what we're seeing is a fundamental shift in the way the network traffic flows. Historically, it was all between the user and the application, so north-south. Here, that continues, but the type of traffic flow that's outstripping that is between the applications and between the servers. We call it east-west traffic. And one of the network evolutions that we've seen quite recently is the move for putting network functions up into software. So software-defined networking and having some of those network functions more agile. And how that manifests itself is, we've got that traditional kind of server platform, with a virtualized environment and an application. And the network below, there are trends that show some of those network functions are moving up and becoming virtual, so software-based network functions. Things like load balancers, firewalls. Really starting to see those kind of living as software on virtual machines. And this is starting to put an even larger load on the east-west traffic pattern. And the network, once again, is really starting to come under the spotlight in terms of the performance. So really, that three-tier architecture that was existing back here in the early days is really, from a core aggregation access perspective, is really in question in terms of the manageability, the efficiency, the performance, and the overall architecture and topology to really support highly virtualized environments where applications information are a must for the business and the users. To really understand how the network needs to evolve, we first need to accept that the network is essentially split into two areas. The network has a control element and a data element, known as the control plane and the data plane. And the data plane, the physical, moving of packets, the fast path, will evolve in terms of topology and architecture. So topology and architecture very, very quickly to a flat layer 2 type network. The industry is telling us this, our customers are telling us this, and we at Brocade have been shipping these solutions for many years. We call them Ethernet fabric solutions. But it's the evolution at the control layer that's very, very interesting, where we can, through the standards that sit between these layers, These standards, things like open flow and open daylight, will really define how the industry can separate control and data plane and take some of these control functions up into software to ensure that when applications need certain amounts of storage, certain amounts of server, in this case, certain amounts of network capacity and capability, then they're defined with the application, not sitting down detached from the application in a static physical network. And how that manifests itself is very much looking at the server platform and the highly virtualized platform. We've got a number of virtual machines that can live on top of that. So we've got our classic applications, we've got our firewalls, we've got our load balancers, another application, and we've got control plane elements. And essentially that collective block, maybe it's a container, whatever the terminology is, manifests itself as the application that can use the highly agile Ethernet fabric to really align that infrastructure and that stack with the business the customer is in, and ensuring that users can get access to information to drive the core business rather than just investing into static IT infrastructures and projects. I hope that was useful. This was the latest in the Ask Alan series. I'll be back with more in the future, but take care.